Welcome back, guys. Hope that you're doing well. My name is Jason. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I go live and discuss some different topics relating to meditation, wellness, yoga, and in today's class, I'm actually going to discuss a topic that is very popular in meditation and yoga circles, which is, are we in control? Do we have control, or do we not have control over our reality? And this for me has been a interesting topic because a lot of the practices that I follow are based in not having control, in the sense that we're more or less these kind of like puppets in a way that are just moving through our experience and doing actions based on stimulus response. And also there is a common theory that we are in complete control of our realities, and whatever we want we can obtain, and it's all about how you focus your energy. So I'll give you a couple of examples of both, and leave it to you to determine what is the best case practice that works for you. So the original practice that I came into through one of my teachers when I was in the university, and he was a teacher that practiced that we do not have any control. And I know for a lot of people this viewpoint is very unsettling, considering most people believe that we are completely in control of our experience, or at least to a large degree, we do control, what experiences we have and what comes into our life, and what we move towards. He commonly gave the example of a scientist, Libet, that did a study where there was a stimulus that was present. I think it was a light, or it may have been a sound, and as soon as you see or you hear that response, then you respond to the stimulus by clicking on a clicker button. And typically what happened was, people saw the light or heard the sound, then they clicked, and then he recorded the response time of the click, and he also was recording the stimulus in the brain, which was responsible for the response in the body, and then just looking at both of those times and trying to determine how quickly do we respond to a stimulus, and is this response to a stimulus, is it something that we're previously aware of prior to the stimulus happening, or does the stimulus need to happen and then we respond to that stimulus? So what he did, he had everybody lined up, measured them. I believe he had either EKG device, which measures response in the brain, and just looking at the data, what he determined was that our brains, so when we think that we make the response, obviously our response is happening quicker than when we think. So response happens, we're aware of the response. But the interesting thing about the experiment was that the stimulus that was happening, it needed to happen prior to our response of the stimulus happening. So there was the stimulus, our response, which was microseconds in response to that, and then our actual response is a little bit more lagged in response to that. So my teacher often used that, saying that, well, you have a stimulus and you may think that your response time is predicated on your belief of how quickly this all happens, but our unconscious response, as he often stated, is happening much quicker than our conscious response. So this is one of the things that I worked with for quite some time. One more example I'll give you, which is a little bit more interesting and a little bit more, I would say, off kind of off the grid with this type of work is also when I was in university, I had an opportunity to go to a research center which was in Northern California that looked at all different types of healing and psychic abilities and many different stuff. And the institute is called the Institute of Noetic Sciences. It was developed a large part by the funding of an astronaut, Edgar Mitchell, who went to space, and as he was descending back from the planet, he had what is referred to in Japanese culture as a satori experience, or a nirvana experience in Buddhism, and enlightening experience in most Eastern traditions, where he came back down, and as he was moving into our atmosphere, he witnessed the planet, and as he witnessed the planet, he had this what would be called an awakening experience, where he felt this sense of non-local consciousness, which is really where you feel more or less identified with space than you feel with your own body, the body that we mostly have incarnated into. And it's pretty amazing. So out of this, one of the studies that we did was pictures were flashed up on the screen, and the pictures were either calming, pleasant pictures like pictures of nature, pictures of people, embracing one another like family members, or pictures of people smiling. Then there were pictures of disaster, pictures of, just things that would otherwise elicit somewhat of a other response in the body. And what the scientist at the time was looking at was he was looking at our pupil dilation and determining if our pupils dilated prior to our awareness of the picture, as to pre kind of be aware of, to prepare us for what's happening, or if our response happens after the picture was put onto the screen. So he looked at our eyes and was determining this pupil dilation. And really the interesting thing about the experiment, so there's really maybe a 1 to 3 second pause before a picture, then there's the picture that shows up, then there's another pause after the picture, so that kind of like your pupils would reset and you're just staring at a blank screen. And the interesting thing that he found out from this experiment was that in a lot of times our pupils, they are reacting in already prior to even the picture showing up on the screen. So this is something that he took a lot of focus on, and I thought it was very interesting because in my response in particular to this study, I actually, in a lot of ways, so I kind of throughout college also was working as an EMT, emergency response, and because you kind of have to be really open to these experiences, what you're not sure what's going to come, but you have to be open to reacting in a very calm way to whatever arises. The interesting part about when I was studied in this experiment was that my pupils, they didn't react typically the same way that somebody else's would, because I had already kind of been conditioned to really what, you know, this whatever the stimulus was that would elicit otherwise a pupil dilating response in the eyes for most people. So, but nonetheless, it was interesting to see that the pupils did dilate in a lot of ways prior even to the pictures arising. And, this was interesting. There's a lot of research in this area. So if, you are interested in this, or this is something that you find to be helpful or beneficial, you can definitely look it up. In regards to our non-control response, it's pretty interesting, because in a lot of science, there's a lot of science stating that our bodies are reacting, and we're kind of at the I don't want to say at the mercy of our environment, or what's happening around us, because that's not entirely true. But you are being guided, maybe in your own way, by whatever natural underlying energy is moving, and it may or may not be a factor of the current environment you're in. So whether that elicits to we are in control or we're not in control, I think that is up to the whoever's the experiencer to experience that. And I just wanted to add one more thing. Recently, somebody was sharing with me that that we as subjects, we oftentimes identify with all these things that are coming up, in our lives, whether it's our relationships, whether it's our situation, whether it's the anything that we really experience. And an interesting thing is, instead of identifying with that, what if you were to identify with the spaciousness around that, and just letting those ideas or those experiences kind of arise and fall within you, but not being overly consumed by whatever. It's funny because we can refer to it as the content, because obviously, as watching things on YouTube or things on Instagram, it is content based. That what arises is the content, but if we can be the spaciousness instead of the content, content arises, content falls away. You'll find oftentimes that you'll feel a lot much more freeing nature, freeing awareness. So I'm gonna start. I know that was a lengthy kind of beginning introduction, but I think for me this topic is really interesting, and I found it to be very, very beneficial. So I'm going to start you guys off with a grounding meditation. We may go a little bit longer today, so as you feel free to stay as short or as long as you want. Once again, a recap will be on YouTube. So all you have to do is, if you're on Instagram, you just click on the profile section of my Instagram, and then you just click on the link which is in the profile section, and that will pop up the video. If you're watching and through the website, you can directly go to the website, and it will pop up through the website. And then also the other thing is, oh, sorry about that, just checking if my mic is there. And the other thing is that if you're on the website, it will automatically stream to YouTube. So you could go that way. You could go through YouTube. Yeah, the one thing wanted to add is, if you like the video before we begin, just click the like button, and and feel free to subscribe. This is just really, it allows for me to continue to share and expand. So now let's begin. We're going to do the first meditation. So coming into a comfortable position. It could either be a cross-legged position. It could be a position where you're seated on a chair. Whatever's comfortable for you, and close your eyes. And we're going to begin with taking the attention of the nostril tips. This is a great way to focus our attention. And just observe any sensations in the nostril tips. The other cool thing about being in the nostril tips is it really is a starting point for where our bodies are at. When we take our attention to our breath, breath is really the most natural thing of the body. We've been breathing since the incarnation into these bodies. Whether you believe in reincarnation or not is arbitrary in this case. It's just knowing that we are breathing, that our bodies are doing this process of respiration, and really it's happening naturally. It's based on your environment. Breathe just briefly based on carbon dioxide levels. So when we exhale all of the carbon dioxide, usually a breathing can happen where we don't have to take as much of a breath. It's observing the nostrils. Taking your attention from the nostrils to the entire nose. Taking our attention from the nose to the area below the nostril tips above the upper lip. We bring our attention here just because it's a little bit less sensitive, but also it's a little bit broader of a region, so it's helpful to kind of become a little bit more expansive. Observing there. Taking our attention from the area below the nostril tips, above the upper lip, to the abdomen. Just observing the rise and the fall of the abdomen. This, as many of you know, in Eastern traditions and practices, this area of the abdomen is really one of the main key components to really being grounded. And all you're doing is just simply watching the belly rise, watching the belly fall. And then from this place, as we move through, just observing now maybe the sensations throughout the body. So a helpful way to do that can be just to briefly observe the sensations from the head, top of the head, all the way down to the feet. Just observing those sensations as they arise. This is a really good way to begin to become aware of the spaciousness. So if you're just tuning in and you'd like to meditate, just close the eyes and just drop on in. And you can also recap if you want to check this out later. So just observing the space of the top of the head, observing the space of the forehead. And we're just observing the sensations. So as you observe the sensations in the forehead, just taking note of the eyes, thank you. Taking note of the ears. Just observing now the back of the head. And the reason we're doing this is because we're working towards allowing ourselves to become more in the present moment. Observing the sensations in the cheeks. Observing the sensations in the throat. Observing the sensations in the shoulders, in the chest. Observing the sensations in the elbows, in the forearms. Observing the sensations in the fingers. And then now as we move to the chest, observing the chest. Observing the diaphragm, observing the belly, observing the upper back, the middle back, the lower back. Observing the thighs, observing the backs of the thighs, the glutes, observing the knees, observing the shins, observing the calves, observing the feet. Now you're more than welcome to continue these types of meditations. There's plenty of other videos I've done where it's just focusing on these sensations up and down the body and just focusing on the breathing techniques that we discussed. The second thing I want to go into, and I know we are going to go a little over today, so thank you for tuning in, is this spaciousness. So as you become aware of the body, eyes are closed. Just imagine that you can see all of these feeling sensations in the body. You can feel them, not identifying with them, just observing. And then if you can, take your attention and bring it to the room you're in, so the eyes can remain closed throughout this entire process. Just observing the four walls, or if you're outside, just observing the space around you. You can create imaginary boundaries just for the sake of this exercise. Below you, to your right, to your left, in front of you, behind you. And then from this place, taking your attention a little bit more outward and observing maybe the building that you're in. You could even, if you know that there's other people in this building, you can also take your attention and you can begin to kind of expand over those people. Like just observing yourself, and then the room you're in, then the building, the other rooms. maybe seeing the outside of the building, maybe seeing the grounds that the building is kept on. And then from here, we're going to expand our attention a little bit more outward. So now just imagining that you can see maybe other things within your scope, like seeing different, maybe the setting that you're in, the environment that this building is in, maybe other buildings that are near the building that you're in, or like I said, if you're outside, just observing maybe a broader area further in front of you, further behind you, further to your left, further to your right. Just starting to see your environment as if you were taking a bird's eye view now of you in this space, in the building, in multiple buildings, the environment all around you. You could imagine that this keeps moving outward, so you continue to move a little bit more outward from this environment into maybe the state that you're in. It could be just the township to start, or the province, or whatever area that that this place that you're in resides. Just imagining that you could be at the bird's eye view and just observing that area. And then if you're continuing to participate and you're really liking this this meditation, you could take it out even another step. Just begin to observe even broader the area that you're in, maybe the state, like I said, maybe multiple states. You can just see all of the things that are happening within this area, so many things. So we're moving from a grounded meditation to a spacious meditation, and there's a reason for this. A lot of the reason why we would move into a spacious meditation is because it allows for us to be, instead of consumed by the small things that arise for us, we can begin to explore the broader experience of life, this non-localization, this non-identification, this non-duality. As you take your attention even more outward, maybe noticing even the country that you're in, and feeling maybe all the areas that surround, even within a single country, there's so many different types of things going on, cultures and people and everything. And then even taking this one even more outward and observing now maybe other countries that you're connected by, and just seeing the space, just so much space. And now even taking it more out and maybe starting to see all the continents, different continents, the ocean. And then from this point, now taking it even further out, and just observing the world, the earth, maybe seeing all the life of the earth, and just beginning to zoom out again, that there's the sun, and then there's all the other planets, and where we are in relation, being the third planet from the sun, observing just all the space now. As you move further and further out, you can just start to notice that the objects, the solidity, begins to become a lot more spacious. You start to notice that the objects are in between space. So if you could imagine, as you move even further out and just seeing the stars and how much more space is in between each star, how much more space is in between all of the different other bodies of the atmosphere. Not even our atmosphere, just the spacious atmosphere. Space. And as you continue to move even further out, what's going on, just leading through a spacious meditation right now. So if you'd like, you can close your eyes. We're just taking our attention now to the atmosphere, just observing all the other planets, maybe even the galaxies. Just observing the galaxies around us. And as you take your attention even further out, just observing now so much space, so much space. So remember, we started this meditation with just being in this body, just being this localized body of, who we are and what we identify with and all these stories and all these issues, to Edgar Mitchell's experience where he's coming back to the earth and he is coming into our atmosphere and he's just observing all of this life and all of these things that are happening, and this sheer awe experience of witnessing this non-localization, this feeling of being completely separated from everything that we are used to, and yet the incredible beauty that arises when we realize that we are all connected to that. Everything is connected to that energy, that source of energy. So if you'd like, at any time, you could continue to come back to this meditation of just observing from this perspective of the body and taking your awareness and attention out to a bird's eye view and going further out into the galaxy and out into the solar system, and then coming back to the body and realizing that your attention, your awareness is all of those things. Your attention and your awareness is everything that you encompass. Whatever that is in your experience, it is all of it. And then as we come to a close for our meditation for this morning's practice, this is a chant that I found to be very beneficial and really is a connection to our greatest whole and our greatest source. So the chant, it comes from the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is a text that was written about 2,500 years ago. It tells of the story of a royal family and this war that goes on between the two families, and really this incredible knowing that there's something that resides that pulls each of us to do whatever it is in life that we're compelled to do. So this is a really amazing chant, and it's just a reminder that whatever in life that you're pulled to, and it doesn't matter what it is, that is through a higher order, that's through a higher consciousness, and that you are that consciousness. That consciousness is you. So I will continue to move into the chant, and the chant goes, aham aatmaa gudaakesha sarva bhuuta shaya sthitaH aham adisha cha madhyam cha bhutanam antaha evaha cha. And the chant, it directly means that you are the self. You are, so in Hindu traditions, they refer to this spaciousness, this consciousness, as a self. In Buddhism, interestingly enough, they refer to this space of consciousness as a non-self. But regardless of whether you call it a self or a non-self, it's the same thing. It's just realizing that you are the consciousness. You are the presence of consciousness. And the interesting part about this consciousness is no matter what happens, no matter what your experience is, you are always that consciousness. Whatever comes into your environment, whatever leaves your environment, you are the source of consciousness. And everything in this planet is arising to and from you. So as we close, if you like, and it's in your practice, just bringing your hands to your center chest, and then just making an inner ode to yourself, whatever it is that you feel that you need to close your practice, and just knowing that as you continue into your day, that whatever that is, that is with you, and then that is going to continue to allow you to grow more into just your natural state of beingness. So I thank you for tuning into this practice. We do this every Tuesday and every Thursday between 6:25 a.m. and 6:50 a.m. I went a little bit later today because I wanted to discuss like the difference in control versus non-control, and really open up to the space of just like this recognition that we can really continue to grow, and we can continue to move into our natural beingness. Like whatever that is for you, you can continue to move into that. So I hope that you enjoyed today's session. Once again, if you're tuning in on YouTube, please feel free to click the thumbs up sign and subscribe. I really enjoy connecting with you guys through these practices, and like as more and more teachings are shared, and as more and more stuff comes through, just feel free to share whatever is working for you, and let me know if there's something else that I can help you with or continue to address. So you guys are awesome, and so fortunate to have you here in the space. And yeah, just your day, hoping it's filled with 1,000,000,000 blessings, and just whatever it is that you're working towards in life, just letting that continue to unfold and just being yourself, because ultimately that is what all this world is about. So you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Peace, happiness, love, connection, good vibrations. If there's anything else I could help you guys with, just be you, be yourself, be happy, and we'll connect soon. Namaste. Thank you. Namaste. Okay, and